If your blood test came back with low vitamin D, this video is going to give you 3 reasons that can cause that blood test to come back showing low vitamin D. But you're also going to understand why a low blood test of vitamin D doesn't necessarily mean that a person should increase the amount of vitamin D they're supplementing. You're going to understand how this can actually magnify the problems that the body may be trying to correct in the first place. Let's jump in.
T.C. Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So when I'm talking about these 3 things that can cause low vitamin D in the system, I'm going to leave out, hey, I haven't been outside since 1983 and I've never supplemented with vitamin D. I'm going to kind of assume that you're at least getting some sunshine, or you're supplementing with vitamin D and having confusion as to why your vitamin D levels would be so low. So the first reason is high blood sugar. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. Either a person is insulin resistant, maybe they're type 2 diabetic, or maybe they're just really eating a high carbohydrate food and they're having carbs all day long and keeping that blood sugar in a high range. In any of those scenarios, this high blood sugar can actually restrict the body's ability to assimilate vitamin D. This is even looked at by the medical world like, hey, look at all of these type 2 diabetics that have low vitamin D. So if you don't want to be a type 2 diabetic, you better take a whole pound of vitamin D at a time. And the reality is that they seem to be looking at this a little bit backwards. I don't view this as low vitamin D is going to cause type 2 diabetes. I view this as this high blood sugar is restricting the body's ability to produce or assimilate vitamin D. And the reason that is because both the high sugar and high levels of vitamin D can create the same reaction when it comes to calcium being in the right place. There's a level of calcium that has to exist at the tissue level for a lot of the body's functions to operate correctly. Also, when there's too much calcium in the bloodstream, it can create a whole lot of really big trouble. So what happens is this vitamin D helps us pull calcium out of the intestinal tract into the bloodstream, and we're very grateful for that. But when vitamin D goes too high, it can pull calcium out of the tissues and even out of the bones and hold it into the bloodstream. So blood sugar is a little bit similar because calcium will follow sugar. Calcium loves to follow sugar, just like you love to follow the ice cream truck when you were 9 years old. So when we eat a lot of carbohydrates or sugar, or when we're insulin resistant and we can't process those carbohydrates and sugars correctly, it's going to cause more calcium to be pulled out of the tissues and have that calcium floating around in the bloodstream. So when too much calcium is pulled out of the tissues, it can actually turn off our immune response. That calcium in the tissues is what signals the immune system like, hey, we got an invader. We got to attack this invader. So when there's not enough calcium there, the immune system doesn't function correctly. So the body kind of doesn't want this. So if there's too much sugar pulling calcium out of these places where that calcium is supposed to be, then the body's going to restrict vitamin D absorption. Too much vitamin D will pull even more calcium out of the tissues and magnify the problem that the high sugar levels are already creating. So you can see that Mother Nature was trying to correct a problem and not make an issue worse, but we look at the blood test and be like, Mother Nature's an idiot, let's just cram more in there. But the reality is when you're cramming more in there, you can be magnifying that problem of displacing calcium and creating a whole lot of trouble. So in this scenario, instead of cramming more vitamin D in the body just because the blood test came up low, it might be more appropriate to lower the blood glucose or correct the insulin resistance that is causing the blood sugar to go too high. Did you know that you can do that? You can do that. People do it every day. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, the second cause that can restrict the body's ability to absorb vitamin D are digestive malfunctions, and specifically poor bile flow. Bile is this soapy substance that's made by the liver and then it's stored in the gallbladder, and it kind of comes down and helps us really bust our food apart and digest our foods. But specifically, we use bile to emulsify or break down our dietary fats. And we need to break down dietary fats for the body to really be able to use those dietary fats. Now, vitamin D is what we call a fat-soluble vitamin, which means that we need fats available to be able to assimilate that vitamin D. Now, fats coming in is not enough. We really need to break those fats down so that the body can use those, and the body uses bile to do that. The problem is there's a lot of things in our life today that can cause bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, and then it doesn't come down when we're digesting our food and help us really digest those dietary fats. Maybe a person has lost their gallbladder, so we don't have that big bolus of bile coming down when we consume food, and we can't really process those fats. Maybe a person isn't producing enough bile. This is more rare, but it is a possibility. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with bile flow that can restrict our ability for the body to bring vitamin D into a usable source. Now, another problem that could go wrong with digestion is a person may not have enough stomach acid. Low stomach acid is very common. So if a person isn't producing enough stomach acid, that stomach acid is what triggers the bile to come down from the gallbladder. So that lack of stomach acid could also restrict bile flow and reduce our ability to fully assimilate fat-soluble vitamins. Now, in the description below this video, I'll put a link for our video for 10 signs for low stomach acid and another video for 10 signs for poor bile flow. So you can check those out to see if those issues may be a problem for you. Or you can check out my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, and chapters 3 and 4 walk you through figuring out, are there aspects of digestion that are not working for you? And if there are, what steps will help you correct those issues? And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below where you can get the whole book totally for free, and that'll help you walk through that process. Now, the third issue that could cause vitamin D tests to come back really low is if someone's eating a low-fat diet. So yes, it's important for us to be able to process fats, but for us to process fats, you got to shove them down your gullet first. So there's still a lot of people that are following information that we learned in 1982 when we were all running in horror from dietary fats. We thought dietary fats were bad, and we know now that that's false. We know now that that's not true and that the body actually needs dietary fats for a lot of purposes. But for information to make it to the mainstream, it can take 40, 50 years sometimes. It really goes slow. So there's still people that are wearing parachute pants and that are still scared of consuming dietary fats. So if that's you, you really need to correct that so that your body can assimilate fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D. So you can see there's a wide variety of issues that can make vitamin D come up low, but sometimes it's more about correcting those underlying causes instead of just cramming more in the system when it really shouldn't be there. So to understand more trouble that can come from taking more vitamin D than your body really should be having at that time, check out our video on who should stop vitamin D so you can understand the troubles that can come about when someone's taking more than is right for their unique bio-individuality. Let us know how it goes.